Over 11 years, we've had disruptions from next door.
It's a monstrosity, basically. Who wants to see that?
Is it a boat or is it a house?
Only one of these three is not having trouble with their neighbour. Can you guess which one?
She's called Wahine, and she was dressed as a wahine, a Polynesian maiden. She's my security doll so that burglars will think someone is in the house. Over 11 years, we've had disruptions from next door. Dreadful industrial building and smells and noises, and you just can't enjoy relaxing.
Wahine is the only one currently enjoying any relaxation on this couch. That's because Susan and Anne-Marie have both been
badly disrupted and disturbed
by the neighbour. And unfortunately, this problem is as big as a house. Except that it's a boat.
Well, it's a 3-storey houseboat. It's on 2 hulls, and it's a huge building.
Susan's next-door neighbour has built a modern-day Noah's Ark in his backyard. But unlike Noah's, this ark might not be seaworthy, according to Anne-Marie.
I'm not a boatie, but I have the impression that if you put that in the water, it would be top-heavy, turn, turtle and sink. Is it a boat or is it a house? Or a boathouse? Or a houseboat? Or a house?
Whatever it is, it's a massive eyesore, according to Anne-Marie and Susan. And that's a massive problem because they can't see it making its maiden voyage anytime soon.
I can't see that it would be seaworthy. I fail to see it being a boat, and I also wonder how they could remove that boat from the backyard.
This labour of love has taken years to construct, and it's been all hands on deck.
Just over the garden fence, there were all these people, massive noise, smells of fiberglassing and glues and other things. And we were intimidated often by youths looking over the fence at us, so that I'd often not go in the spa pool, for example, because they'd shriek out horrible things and so on. We want to be relaxing and enjoying life, but it's like a terrible machine going on all the time.
Like most machines, the neighbour's house-shaped boat has been making a lot of noise.
In 2009, we had 5 weeks of incredible noise. It was so bad, it was driving me crazy, that I decided to record it.
Using a rudimentary analogue recording device, Susan was able to capture the full horror of the cacophony next door.
And I'll play it for you if you like.
Yes, please.
As you can see, it's quite loud. That's soaring. Hours of infuriating noise, and I could do nothing about it.
If there was nothing Susan could do about the machine noise, there was even less she could do about the neighbours' taste in local radio.
The radio was often very loud, and it was often commercial. I think builders quite often like loud radio, and I don't like commercial radio. It used to make me so upset.
Commercial radio can be offensive to more refined tastes. So Susan made sure to keep her doors and windows closed. But still, the neighbour managed to bring the noise.
As well as the noise from the building, he had 2 Alsatians, and they were barking a lot. And they were disturbing because if you'd turn a light on at night, they'd start barking. As soon as you opened the back door and went on the deck, they'd be barking. He also had a parrot which screeched.
It started at 6:30 every morning.
The parrot was sort of like a watchbird. Was it a parrot?
I think it was a sulphur-crested cockatoo.
The sulphur-crested cockatoo is regarded as a pest in parts of its native Australia. It is renowned for its intelligence and raucous call.
Parrots can be used for security, but the parrot hasn't been around for some time. I think it died.
To the best of my knowledge, he doesn't have a peg leg, so I don't think he's a pirate.
Susan tried repeatedly to engage her neighbour, but permission to come aboard was never granted.
I've put quite a few letters into his letterbox because there's an iron fence and you can't get in the gates. It's impossible to communicate with him.
Sick of being kept in the dark, Susan did something that would make John Key proud. She began surveillance.
Well, I did spy on him because I was so upset by what he was doing, and I wanted to know what was happening next door because we were involved with all the noise, the smells and so on.
Sadly, Susan gained little insight from her spying, but using her camera did give her an insight into her neighbour's mother.
His mother also, once when I was trying to take a photo, came out and called me a dirty, horrible, low-grade.
Over the back of Susan's, we found Dave, who lives directly off the stern of his neighbour's vessel. That's just off the port quarter in boating parlance.
Well, I've been living there for 14 years now, since January '99, and it's been fine. And then all of a sudden, this arc has sort of reared its ugly head.
One reason Dave calls this an arc is because the only way he can see it moving is through a weather event of biblical proportions.
I don't know how he's going to get it out, but I think he must know something. Flood, I think, will be the only way to get that out. When I start seeing animals coming down the road in twos, I'll take a hint, then I'll go then.
Dave actually had an agreement with the neighbour allowing him to do some work on the boat at agreed times, but he had no idea what he was signing up for.
I didn't expect to come back and see that. Otherwise, I definitely wouldn't have given him permission. I thought he was just going to finish off the base and then move it to a hoker like he did last time. But then when I come back, all that's up.
Dave wasn't expecting a ship on his doorstep, nor was he expecting the solar eclipse it's now causing.
We used to get a nice lot of sun. We don't get any sun now until it's up there. You know, it blocked out the sun. It's a monstrosity, basically. Who wants to see that? I'll take the rubbish out, and it's in my eyes all the time. I'll take the rubbish out. I'll go down a pub. I've got to pass it from the front. It's just, well, mind-boggling.
You may be wondering if this epic structure is even legal in a residential zone. We were wondering the same thing. So was Dave and Anne-Marie and Susan and possibly Wahine. So Dave went to the council.
The council said that it's breaching no regulations because it is not a dwelling, it's a temporary structure. I think the council are wrong. It's all wrong.
Council regulations state a temporary structure is permissible as long as it's for personal use and not the product of commercial activity. But Dave and Anne-Marie and Susan and possibly Wahine have some thoughts on that.
He is, in theory, operating within the law because he's building a boat for his own purposes. That permits him to build an ocean-going liner in the backyard.
But it's the ocean liner scale of this boat that has everyone thinking this is not really a pet project.
This is a commercial boatyard. He states it as a commercial boatyard on his website. That is a very large backyard, which you could very easily build at least one large single-storey house on. Is almost entirely occupied by sheds of various levels of decrepitude and now dominated by a 3-storey boat, 100 feet long. The sheer scale of the operation is well and truly beyond building a pleasure boat in the backyard. I would be terrified if something caught fire around here because I think there is an enormous fire hazard sitting in this community and it's right next door.
We approached the Christchurch City Council for an explanation about how this could be allowed to happen. The council told us that despite being a boat, the neighbour's pride and joy does fit the definition of a building. The council said, this boat, as a structure under the city plan, meets the required standards. The council also said, there is no rule in the district plan under the Resource Management Act that limits hobbyists building a boat in residential zones. The council concluded, the boat can remain in this location so long as it complies with the district plan rules.
I think the council are wrong. They should have gone into it more deeply, especially with the amount of complaints they've had.
The council may be ready to accept that this is a boat, but Anne-Marie has given up thinking of her neighbour's creation as a seagoing vessel.
I don't understand how one could come to any conclusion other than that. He's building a house.
I mean, looking at it now, I don't see how it can be a houseboat because of the materials it's used for the, the superstructure. Well, if you see, it's all cheap ply. It doesn't look like it's marine ply, so how it's going to stand up to the elements.
At the moment, this ambiguous plywood wonder can't stand up to scrutiny, let alone the elements.
I'm at a loss to understand what's in the guy's mind to build in something like that here.
Well, the quality of the last 11 years has been marred by the neighbour next door ruining a peaceful and beautiful environment for me. It's had more of an impact than the earthquakes, for me.
He operates on the edge of the law. He couldn't give a toss about the impact that he has upon other people.
A lot of people have moved out because of him. I might try one of these days.
Since filming, Susan reports that the thing next door is now closer to a house than a boat because people appear to be living in it. And unfortunately, it's no closer to the sea.